All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 101. I did the math, realized that on Sunday it is going to be my 500th daily vlog. So if you guys have anything you would like to see as part of that 500th daily vlog, put in the comments down below. And I need to drink. Alright, so today we gotta talk about Dungeons and Dragons. So it was announced by Screen Rant, I think is the first company that actually got the scoop on this. Bunch of other sites have covered it as well. Jeremy Crawford, one of the lead designers on 5th edition, is leaving Wizard of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons in a few weeks. He's not gone yet, but he is going. And yeah, that actually marks 3 really big departures in the last few years. For anyone that hasn't been following this super close, the first one of the really big names of D&D to leave was actually Mike Mearls. Mike Mearls, Mike Mearls first started working for Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons back in 2005. He started working on I think he started a little bit with 3rd edition stuff, but was very quickly moved over to the new 4th edition team, along with Jeremy Crawford. So Mearls and Crawford actually helped design 4th edition. Then for 5th edition, they were listed as co-lead designers. So they were really, really influential in what 5th edition became, and 4th edition as well. And anyone who's been watching this channel long enough knows I am a huge 4th edition fan. I still love it to this day. I think it's great. And I've been really, really happy to see, especially after the 2024 rules revision, a lot of people have started realizing that 4th edition was not the monster that a few assholes that were mad that their super min-max 3rd edition character was no longer being supported made it out to be. It was a wonderful, phenomenal Giga game. A lot of newer games are taking inspiration from 4th edition because it was a really, really solid Giga game. And until 5th edition, it was by far the most profitable and the most popular version of Dungeons & Dragons ever. Yes, you 3rd edition purists, 4th edition outsold every single book that 3rd edition had ever printed in like somewhere between like 9 months and a year. It's either, if I remember correctly, it's either 6 or 9 months. And then just continued to sell books. So it wasn't the black sheep or anything like that. It was hugely successfully popular. Then there was this revisionist history that came around that these really annoying people that liked 3rd edition tried to claim that 4th edition was this huge catastrophe, and it wasn't. So anyway, Mearls, there wasn't a lot of like hullabaloo when Mearls left for a number of reasons. First, there was a rumor that, as far as I have seen, was completely unsubstantiated and just made up to make him and this other dude look bad, that Mearls had done some stuff that had helped kind of suppress some accusations that a contributor for 5th edition had done some bad stuff to ladies. Those accusations and allegations were also never proven, and there's this whole article that I did a video about that basically showed that they were just completely made up by 4chan. Like it was 100% just an industrial hit job that worked really, really well, because there are still people to this day that believe that Mike Mearls did this thing that he never did. But because of that, he had a really, really he had a really, really bad rep within the community. And by the time the OGL debacle had come out, people learned that Merles had not been working on Dungeons and Dragons for a while. So there wasn't a big announcement when Merles left Dungeons and Dragons, because he just transferred from Dungeons and Dragons to Magic the Gathering, because he's a rules designer, and Magic the Gathering, I think it holds the Guinness World Record for the most complicated game in existence. And that has everything to do with the fact that it's been around for like 30 or nearly 30 years, I think, at this point. And each year or each new set, I don't remember how many sets come out in a year, but each new set introduces a new rule. So yeah, do that for 30 years and you got lots of crazy rules. So anyway, and then Merles left Wizard of the Coast completely in 2003. So that was our first big leave from Wizard of the Coast. Then we just got an announcement a few weeks ago. Chris Perkins is done. He announced the day that he retired. Hey, I'm done. This was my last day. Poof. Earlier today, Screen Rant put out an article talking about how Jeremy Crawford was leaving as well. And the weird thing about the article from Screen Rant is it's titled Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins to leave Dungeons & Dragons design team. Which isn't true. Chris Perkins already left. He's gone. I made a whole video about it. Chris Perkins called me his friend. Yay. Yeah, I don't know why they felt the need to rope Chris Perkins back into it. And literally every article I see, or I guess two of the articles I see, the other one from comicbook.com, had to kind of bring in Chris Perkins as well. So I don't understand that. But then we get to this article today that announces in a few weeks, I think it's 2 weeks, Crawford is going to be stepping down. And just like Chris Perkins, Crawford, I don't think Crawford specifically has said anything, but in the article, they talked to some people from Wizards of the Coast. I don't know if it was Crawford or not. I don't think they mentioned it in the article. But they basically said, yeah, he wanted to stay around long enough to get the 2024 revision out. And that's done. And now he's ready to go. And he's very pleased with the people that he's leaving behind. Perkins said the exact same thing. He's like, I'm really happy to see the people that I'm that are staying with the company, because I feel like Dungeons and Dragons has been left in really good hands. So as far as we can tell, this is not, they weren't getting laid off. They weren't getting fired. They're not, leaving out of protest or anything like that. They both have had pretty extensive careers in Dungeons and Dragons specifically, or technically all three of them, though it seems that Merles did not leave of his own volition. So I'm not 100% on that. Don't quote me on that. Just everything that has happened since then, to me, it feels like Merles did not leave on the note that both Perkins and Crawford are leaving on. Yeah, so now we have three, and it's not like, three people from Dungeons and Dragons are gone. No, these are three of the biggest names in Dungeons and Dragons in the past 25 years. Again, Chris Perkins, not only has he been working on Dungeons and Dragons stuff since the 90s, he helped with the third edition. And then he was real big into 4th edition. He started Acquisitions Incorporated, and he did Celebrity D&D games, and he goes to all these different conventions. He was the face of Dungeons and Dragons for a long time. For a while, whenever he was introduced, he would be introduced as DM of the Stars. So he was the huge public-facing face of Dungeons and Dragons, and in addition to that, he also was a writer on a lot of their best stuff. Like the most popular and best-selling 5th edition adventure is Curse of Strahd, which Perkins wrote with the help of the original Ravenloft writers, Tracy Hickman, and I can't remember his wife's name, because I don't do well with names. but yeah, like Chris Perkins is this huge, huge here. Jeremy Crawford is also a huge, huge name. Again, he helped design 4th edition. He was the co-lead designer of 5th edition with Mike Mearls. So all of the stuff that made 5th edition amazing when it first came out and for the first 10 years that it was going, say whatever you want about the 2024 revisions. And a lot of people I just saw a really, really stupid post on Twitter talking about how, well, it's a good thing that Perkins and Crawford are gone because they were just both really, really bad leaders, completely forgetting about the fact that they have been leaders since 5th edition started. But everyone blames them for the 2024 revisions because their names are on it and completely forgets that they also did Ravenloft and the original 5th edition core books, and Princes of the Apocalypse, which is okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay. And all those, like, they did such amazing work, and the most recent thing that they did fell a little bit flat. I've given my opinions. The only one of the 3 core books that I actually enjoyed was the Dungeon Master's Guide, and that was specifically because it's a really, really good Dungeon Master's Guide for new Dungeon Masters, which is not a thing that Dungeons & Dragons has ever done. It took them 50 years to figure out maybe we should market our products to people that don't play. But the other 2, I wasn't really thrilled with. The Player's Handbook it caused a lot of issues because a lot of the new mechanics just don't work and are undercooked. The 2025 technically Monster Manual, they took out almost all of the lore. They changed a few things for established lore and a lot of different monsters, and they simplified quite a few of the monsters while changing other things to make them slightly more dynamic. So there were pluses and minuses. I think probably of the 3 books I would rank the Player's Handbook is probably the least impressive, then the Monster Manual, and then severely higher than the other 2 books is the Dungeon Master's Guide. So anyway, back to Jeremy Crawford. In addition to being the lead or the co-lead designer of 5th edition, he was also the rules guy. He wrote a monthly column called Sage Advice, which was effectively used as a mobile errata, to the point where a lot of the times when they would actually print errata for any of the books, it would come directly from Sage Advice. So Jeremy Crawford was not just the lead designer, he was the kind of head honcho of rules. When people had questions about rules and how they were supposed to work, they would go directly to Jeremy Crawford, and he would answer them on Twitter a lot. And things said from his account were generally considered, depending on who you wanted to talk to, were generally considered official rulings for how it's supposed to work for Dungeons & Dragons. Now, it didn't mean that you had to listen to any of it, but you also don't have to use any of the rules in the rule book. So a lot of people used to make this huge, huge hullabaloo about the idea that Sage Advice is not, canon. That's just one person. No, it is the co-lead designer of 5th edition and the overall rules dude. I can't remember what his title was, but he was the rules dude. So this is a really, really big deal. Like losing Perkins, made an entire video about it. And Chris Perkins said he's my friend in it, and that made me feel special. I may have said that. This is the second time I've recorded this video, so I may have said that already in this video. I'm going to just keep saying it over and over again. But Perkins was a huge blow, but anyone that had been paying attention to what Chris Perkins had been doing kind of saw it coming. He had been stepping back for years from a lot of his duties from as part of Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast. So when I saw that he retired, I was saddened. I wasn't surprised. Crawford, on the other hand, I was surprised about. Crawford had kind of been stepping into Perkins' shoes as far as the front face of Dungeons and Dragons. He took over for Crawford as the dungeon master for Acquisitions Incorporated, and was doing that for a number of years now. Every so often, or he took over for Perkins. Crawford took over for Perkins as the dungeon master for Acquisitions Incorporated, and he did a fine job. He's not Chris Perkins, but he did a fine job. I've enjoyed quite a few of the things that he's run for them. But yeah, this one kind of came out of left field, and like I said, as much as yes, Chris Perkins was a huge loss, Crawford feels, I don't know, like a bigger loss, mostly from the fact that it was something I wasn't expecting. And again, Perkins was the creative designer, which is exceptionally important. Don't get me wrong, but that's story and lore and stuff like that. Stuff that he's exceptionally good at. But Crawford was the rules guy. And as a lot of people have pointed out, myself included, the 2024 version of D&D 5.5, as I like to call it, needs a lot of rules work. I know only one person outside the Adventurers League, because they're a marketing tool for D&D. I know always have been, and that's not a bad thing. But other than the Adventurers League and this one other dude, I do not know a single person who upgraded to the 2024 rules. They are just broken. And they had to immediately errata a few things in them because, my personal opinion, they did not play test 5.5 anywhere near as long as they should have. And I think it would have been in their best interest, instead of trying to update 5th edition, they should have gone for 6th edition. Things like weapon masteries don't work particularly well in the framework of 5th edition, because 5th edition wasn't designed with the idea that your weapons get extra stuff that they can do just for the fact that they are a weapon. They had cool feats from, I think it was Xanathar's, that allowed you to do extra stuff when you use certain damage types. Like the Piercer feat allowed you to do extra damage on crits with weapons that did piercing damage, or the Slasher feat allowed you to effectively slow people. So that fit into how 5th edition worked. Weapon Masteries is a brand new system that was built onto it, and it just doesn't work. However, if they would have turned it into a 6th edition where they didn't limit themselves by trying to use the framework that 5th edition had, Weapon Mastery could actually work really well in a new RPG. So 5.5, they wanted to get it out for the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons, and because of that, it came out extremely half-baked and just not good. And so if they want to salvage 5.5, which, according to Wizards of the Coast, they have a 5-year release schedule already hammered out for 5th edition. So they're planning on it running for another 5 years minimum. And if they want people to continue playing it for 5 more years, they need to fix it. And they need people with really good game design backgrounds, which, love them or hate him, Jeremy Crawford has an amazing game design mind. Again, I firmly believe the reason that 5.5 came out as bad as it did has nothing to do with the designers and everything to do with the higher-ups at Hasbro going, no, this is coming out for the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons. You do whatever you need to, but it's going to be the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons. We're releasing something big. So yeah, losing Crawford, I don't think is particularly good. If you read the article, The article mentions that according to Wizards of the Coast, they're not looking to fill the positions that Crawford and Perkins held. Like, they're not looking to promote someone to, new, mega rules lawyer, or new owner of all the lore, which is what Perkins and Crawford used to be. But what their plan is to just allow a lot of people just more kind of latitude and more kind of leadership abilities from their current positions. So effectively, they're replacing two monarchs with a council, which can work well, and can be really, really bad. It depends on how it's implemented and how well the council works with each other. Design by committee is often talked about in the business world as a really, really bad thing, because in general, when you're designing something, you do need some sort of manager, someone in a leadership position that's kind of guiding everyone. And things that are designed by committee generally tend to lose their focus because you have all these different members and there isn't a kind of combined vision or one kind of overriding voice that kind of gets everyone to work together, and you come up with these really convoluted, bizarre things that on paper technically work, but in practice are next to worthless. So theoretically, if that's the route that they're going with, we could see the end of 5th edition pretty quick here. On the other hand, if you have a really, really solid team that understands the idea of, on this project, this person's in the lead, and on this project, this person's in the lead, that actually can work exceptionally well. The problem with that type of management structure is, first of all, everyone working on the various teams has to be very adult about how they interact with their coworkers. They have to be very, very mature, because it's so easy to see someone else in a position of authority and have them abuse that authority, or another person that thinks that they should be in that position of authority start challenging them and things like that. Like, it happens constantly. Even when there is set chains of command, you will have these kind of infighting power struggles that happen. So in order to have a group where different people take the lead at different points, they all have to have a mutual respect for each other, and they all have to be very, very mature and understand that everyone's going to make mistakes and things like that. And they all have to have leadership ability. Because that's another thing that a lot of people don't understand. Simply because you're good at something doesn't mean that you're going to be good at leading people doing something. Leadership abilities are completely separate from vocational abilities. Training and teaching abilities are also completely separate. That's another thing that I see constantly, where you'll take someone that's just really good at doing something and go, well, he can teach people how to do it, yeah? And then they're completely incapable of teaching anyone anything because they don't have that skill set. They're very, very good at tennis. They're not a very good tennis coach. So, the fact that Crawford is gone could mean a lot of different things. Again, according to this article, they claim that there is Crawford's departure has absolutely no impact on the 5-year plan, the 5-year release schedule, or map, whatever they have, that they've set out for 5th edition. And their justification for that is, we already have the people in place that are going to be leading each book or each project, and none of them were Jeremy Crawford, because Jeremy Crawford had been planning on leaving for a while. He just didn't want to leave until he knew that 5.5 was set. The same thing was true about Chris Perkins. He'd been planning on leaving for a while. He just didn't want to leave until 5.5 was done. That was their last hurrah. That was their swan song. Which kind of sucks because it wasn't a great swan song, but it is what it is. So yeah, what does this mean for Dungeons and Dragons? Is Dungeons and Dragons over? Like everyone keeps claiming? No, it's not. However, it does not put a lot of confidence in me that they have lost, in the past 2 years, they have lost 3 of the biggest reasons why 5th edition is as popular as it is. Chris Perkins, Mike Mearls, and Jeremy Crawford made 5th edition what it is today. As well did a ton of other people. I'm not discounting all the other people that worked for Wizards of the Coast and turned 5th edition. But to be blunt, those 3 names are the reason 5th edition is by far the most popular version of Dungeons and Dragons that has ever existed. And the original version of 5th edition is by far the easiest to get into for new players and the most accommodating that they've ever made. Like, if you wanted to get into Dungeons and Dragons at any point, it was an uphill battle. Even my personal favorite version, 4th edition, was really complex and kind of difficult to understand if you didn't use the online character builder, which made it incredibly easy to get into. You need to know nothing about the game to get into it with the character builder. It was great. I miss that. Don't get me wrong, D&D Beyond's fine, but it's just not the same. Sad face. Cries in 4th edition as a minor action. But yeah, like this, like I said in the Chris Perkins video, no one will ever replace Chris Perkins. And Wizards of the Coast has admitted that now. Yeah, we're not going to give someone Chris Perkins' title. It's not worth it. However, just because no one can be the next Chris Perkins doesn't mean that there isn't going to be someone that now gets the ability to step up and show what they can really do and create some really amazing things. Chris Perkins is not the only person in the world that is an amazing dungeon master and creator as far as Dungeons and Dragons is concerned. He is absolutely amazing. But he's not the only one in the world. I mean, look at the stuff that Mercer has done. Or look at the stuff that Brennan Lee Mulligan has done. The nonsense that Brennan Lee Mulligan has done over on Dimension 20. Look at what's his name? Draw Steel. MCDM, Matt Colville. There we go. Took my brain a while to get to him. Look what Colville has done. Look what Mark Humes has done. There are a lot of really amazing creative people in the Dungeons and Dragons scene that can do things that Chris Perkins could never do. And there's a lot of things that Chris Perkins could do that none of them could do. And there are a lot of really incredible game designers that can do stuff that Crawford would never be able to do and would never be able to come up with. There's a lot of stuff that Crawford and Mearls came up with that no one else would have thought of. So is this, the end of Dungeons and Dragons? No, it's not. It does make me less positive about D&D going forward until we get a 6th edition, simply because we have seen... trying to think of a polite way to say this. The new people at Wizards of the Coast, to be perfectly honest, the new people at a lot of places do not have the skills to be able to do what they're doing. We've seen it over and over and over again. Poorly written lore, poorly designed rules and the things like that, poorly edited the things. There was this huge hiring phase where they were just hiring people that had no experience or very little experience. And normally that's not a huge problem. That's actually a really smart way to grow your company. Let's go business here. If you're running a company, a lot of people assume when you're hiring people, the best decision you can make is always hire the person that is the best at the job, the person with the most experience, the most skills. And in a lot of situations, you do want the person that is the quote-unquote best. You want someone that's going to bring a lot of unique skills to your company and make your company better. However, and this is one of the things that a lot of hiring managers and people who work at staffing will sometimes undervalue, is there are certain times where it is actually in your best interest to hire someone with very little experience, for two reasons. One, they don't have bad habits that you have to unlearn, that they have to unlearn in order to work for you. Two, you can develop them the exact way you want and basically make your own custom perfect employee. Whereas anyone that comes in with loads of experience, you're not really going to be able to change their work style, their management style, whatever it is that they're doing. You're not going to change that. You're going to hope that they can adapt it to your particular environment. But it's their style that they've created. So every so often, it's a good idea to hire people with very little experience, even for kind of higher end jobs that either just have a lot of innate talent or just have a lot of drive that makes them want to try really hard and learn very, very quickly. That being said, you cannot build an entire team of effectively new hires or people with little to no experience. Because the entire purpose of bringing in someone that has little to no experience is you're going to pair them with people that have significant amounts of experience. And you train them up, you develop them into a good employee. If you hire an entire fleet of people with little to no experience, first of all, you're not going to be able to give them the individual attention that they need in order to be developed correctly. Second of all, you're not going to have enough people to even train them. And so they are going to teach themselves. They're going to teach themselves poorly, because that's what happens when you put people into a brand new place and then just kind of let them go. It's very, very rare for someone to have the innate ability to not only teach themselves, but also to be able to teach themselves something without anyone like teaching it to them. And basically have to learn the rules themselves and then also develop themselves. Like it's a very rare skill set to have. And I think effectively that's what happened during 5th edition, is they just started hiring all of these people with little to no experience in designing a rules-heavy game like Dungeons and Dragons. And that's why we kept getting these really weird kind of misses. Back when I was still doing in-depth reviews for D&D books, one of my regular critiques is that the dialogue and box text in most of the written adventures for the past like 4 or 5 years now is just outright awful. It is so robotic. It is just so incredibly unpleasant to read. Everything about it is just bad. That's because you put people writing that had no experience writing box text or writing dialogue in general. Being able to write dialogue is a skill. It's not something that everybody can do. Ask any writer that is actually, put pen to paper and actually maybe not published, but actually written a book or things like that, and talk to them about the idea that writing prose and then writing dialogue are two very, very, very different things. And they require a different mindset and a different set of skills. And the people that were writing this box text just didn't have the skills in any way, shape, or form. Which, again, is perfectly fine if your intention is to develop them. But as far as I can tell, they went and just hired too many people and just assumed that they'd be able to do it. So yeah, now we're losing the third of the 3 big names. I think Hyatt is the only big name from Wizards of the Coast that I haven't heard of leaving yet. But if we get another announcement in a couple of weeks that James Hyatt's gone too, I think that's his name, right? James something. what's his name? James something. Wyatt, not Hyatt. Wyatt. James Wyatt. Which I think he still works for Wizards of the Coast, right? I don't know. Anyway, maybe he doesn't, because I think he's a deacon now. Anyway, so anyway, losing Crawford, after losing Merles, after losing Perkins, there's not a whole lot of people to kind of bring up this new generation of game designers, at least at D&D. And as we've already seen, the people there are not quite up to the level that they need to be running the show over there. 5.5 is a really good example that they're not quite where they need to be. Again, it's not entirely on the designers' heads. I firmly believe Hasbro forced them to put it out faster than they needed to. But there are quite a few things that made it into the print edition that anyone with decent experience in game design would have gone, this is a bad idea. There's no reason to do this. Why would you do that? So we'll see what happens. Again, I have effectively gotten burnt out of Dungeons and Dragons in general. It's not that I think it's a bad game or anything like that, but I have been running multiple D&D campaigns for a decade. As soon as both of the D&D campaigns I'm running right now run their course, I probably won't be running, to be perfectly honest, I probably won't be running any games other than my Zelda game for at least a couple years. I've already told my players, hey, I want to keep playing and having D&D happen on Wednesday nights on my Twitch channel, but I'm not going to be the one running it. I will stream it. I will help you guys create assets and stuff like that. I'm not going to run. And I already have a few of my players that have gone, oh no, I'm 100% ready to step up in DM. So, and yeah, you'll notice that my Zelda games, I've never run Dungeons and Dragons. Well, I did. We did a one shot, or technically a two shot, where I had my Realms of the Wilds players play D&D 4th edition. I created versions of their characters in 4th edition. That was fun. It's kind of fun. It didn't go nearly as well as I'd wanted, and they didn't really get the rules and everything like that. So it was kind of like pulling teeth, but worse things have happened. Yeah, Crawford's gone. Future in D&D, according to Crawford, is in good hands. We will see how accurate that is. It's very, very possible that all my problems with 5.5 were entirely caused by Hasbro, and that the people that Crawford is leaving behind and Perkins are leaving behind actually are up to the task of running Dungeons and Dragons and creating great content. They just got screwed over by being forced to put something out for the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. So it's very possible things are going to continue going really, really well, and we will have a new name, a new face of Dungeons and Dragons, possibly. I don't know if that's going to be a thing, because that was really, again, that was a thing that Chris Perkins created for 4th edition, to be blunt. The DM to the Stars thing, it wouldn't have happened without Chris Perkins. And then Crawford kind of stepping in and doing Acquisitions Incorporated. That was mostly due to the fact that Acquisitions Incorporated is a franchise that doesn't want to die and doesn't need to die. It's wonderful. It's amazing. I love it. So, yeah. We will see what happens. Interested to hear from you guys. Are you guys in the kind of negative court of, well, you know, it's obvious that you know, Wizards of the Coast is going downhill and Dungeons and Dragons is going to die. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you in the boat that I'm in? It's like, well, not particularly pleased about this. It doesn't give me a lot of confidence, but it's still possible that D&D is going to get better and better. You know, there are some people that they don't really shine until they are put into a position where they have no choice but to either shine or leave. You know, the idea of sink or swim. There's some people that react very, very well to that. Maybe the new people that are heading up D&D will be like that. So let me know what you guys' opinions are in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, it's all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.